Hi, welcome to this week's math video. Today we're going to be talking about equations and the associative property. SOL 4.16 A and B says that the student will be able to recognize and demonstrate the meaning of equality in an equation, and they should be able to investigate and describe the associative property for addition and multiplication. Now that second part about the associative property is not covered in Math Plus Red, so please make sure you pay close attention to this video. So let's start off by talking about an equation. What is that? Well, it's pretty simple really, something that you've been looking at since kindergarten, maybe first grade, where you are looking at number sentences that say something like 3 plus 1 equals 4. It's basically an equation shows that two amounts are equal, and you're going to be using an equal sign. Okay, what I want you to start to do is think about the equal sign as a balance. Whatever is on one side needs to be the same value as what's on the other side. And then you can see that it's balanced, it's equal. It's very important to think of it like that. Because if one side is a little bit bigger, it's going to be off balance, right? And we call that an inequality. And so for this example, we would use a greater than sign. So if you look at that with numbers, you can see I would never say 9 equals 3. Oh my goodness, no. No, you don't use that equal sign. You would say 9 is greater than 3, right? Because 9 is heavier. It's bigger. It has more value than a 3. Same is true for the other side. I would never say 9 equals 54. No way. I would say 9 is less than 54, right? So you would only use that equal sign if both sides were the same value, and that puts the world at peace. So now it starts to get a little bit more complicated if instead of just a single number, they give you an expression like 9 plus 2, 10 plus 1. So sometimes you have to do a little bit of calculation to make sure that they're equal. So we all know that 9 plus 2 equals 11, and 10 plus 1 equals 11. So I could verify that yes, this is an equation and this is equal. Both sides have the same value. Let's look at this example. 3 times 5, well, we know that that equals 15. And 15 times 1, that equals 15. So I can verify, yes, this is an equation. Both sides have the same value. They are equal. So then you're going to start getting into this situation where they might leave part of it blank, and you're going to have to fill in the blank to make it an equation. If it has that equal sign, then both sides have to have the same value. I can't allow this side to be smaller or bigger than this side, right? Because it has the equal sign. So I know that 4 times 6 is 24. So now I have to decide what can I multiply times 8 to equal 24. Well, if you don't know that offhand, then you might want to do some skip counting or write your math facts over to the side. Take the time to do it. And looky here. 8 times 3 is 24. So I would put a 3 here to make this an equation, to make both sides have the same value. Wow, look at this one. Now we have 3 numbers. So you have to take your time and start multiplying across and see if this is equal. 2 times 3 times 5. So 2 times 3 is 6 times 5. Well, I know that that is 30. And let's come over to the other side. 6 times 5 is 30 times 1. Well, that's still 30. So yes, I can say that this equation is equal. This is a valid equation. Both sides have the same value. What about this one? Is this an equation? Do both sides have the same value? Well, let's take a look. We already know that this side, 2 times 3 was 6 times 5 was 30. 6 times 5 is 30 times 0. Uh-oh, that powerful 0 wipes everything out. It makes it a 0. So no, this is not equal. I would have to say 30 is greater than 0. Now the reason I gave this example is because a lot of the times the SOL will try to sneak in a 0 here or there just to make sure you're paying attention. I know that you know whatever is multiplied times 0 is 0, but sometimes when you're in a hurry, you just kind of see that 0 and ignore it because you know a 0 is also nothing. But don't do that mistake. Make sure that you are very careful when you're multiplying with a 0. Let's take a look at this one. What would I have to add to 10 to equal this side? Well, first we better figure out what this side equals, right? 4 times 5 would be 20 times 2, that would be 40. Okay, so now I have to try to figure out what belongs here. What do you think? I would put a 30 because 30 plus 10 equals 40. All right. Now let's take a look at this. I've shown you some examples where there are 3 numbers. Sometimes with multiplication signs, sometimes with addition signs. And the big question that I get is, which part do I add or multiply first? What do you think? Does it matter? Well, let's take a look at the associative property of multiplication and addition, and you're going to learn what part you're allowed to add or multiply first. So if you take a look at this, 3 times 4 times 2 equals 3 times 4 times 2. It's the same thing. The only difference is where these parentheses are. On this side, the parentheses are around the 3 and the 4. And on this side, the parentheses are around the 4 and the 2. What does that mean? Why do we even use parentheses? Well, in math, that's our way of saying, I want you to do this part first. Do this part first. Okay? So whenever you see a parentheses, you know you have to do that part first. Well, let's take a look. Does it matter if we do the 3 times 4 first or the 4 times 2? Is it going to make a difference? Let's try it. So 3 times 4 equals 12. And then I'm going to bring down times 2. 12 times 2 is 24. Okay, so we have that side done. Let's come over to this side, and this time we're going to multiply this first. 4 times 2 is 8. Bring down 3 times 8. 3 times 8 is 24. So look at that, 24 equals 24. So that shows me that I can group the numbers differently and it doesn't change the answer. That is what the associative property of multiplication is all about. As long as all of your signs are multiplication, then you can group them however you want. Okay? That's what that means. So it doesn't matter if the parentheses are here or if they're here. Either way, you're going to get the same answer, so you can group them differently. That's what the associative property is all about. So let's take a look at the associative property of addition. Here we have 3 plus 4 plus 2. 3 plus 4 plus 2. The difference is the parentheses. Let's take a look. Would we get a different answer? We know that we have to do this part first. 3 plus 4 is 7. And now I'm going to drop this 2 down. 7 plus 2 is 9. Let's take a look at this side. This time we're going to do this part first. 4 plus 2 is 6. And we're going to drop this down. Plus 3. 3 plus 6 is 9. So wow, look at that. We get the same thing. So that's what the associative property is all about. And it kind of plays with your eyes when you look at a long equation like this, but you just need to take it one thing at a time. And the only difference between these two sides is that the grouping is different. On this side, you're grouping 3 plus 4, meaning that you want to do that part first. And on this side, you're grouping 4 plus 2, meaning you do that part first. But look at that, it does not change the answer. Now I have to tell you that this does not work with subtraction and division. The associative property only works with multiplication and addition. Okay, so to answer that question, what part should I add or multiply first? As long as the signs are all the same, it doesn't matter what you do first in addition and multiplication. As long as, see in this expression here, all of them are multiplication. In this expression, all of them are in addition. Okay? All right, so now, in a little bit, you'll start to see equations like this, or expressions like this, where you have addition, multiplication, subtraction, parentheses, and guess what? There's a very special way to solve a problem like that, and that's called order of operations. But luckily, for right now, you don't have to worry about that. But don't worry, that's coming soon in 5th grade. So you will learn about that, about what order to do it. But for now, if they're all the same, if they're all multiplication symbols or all addition symbols, it doesn't matter what you do first. Now, I don't want you to mix up the associative property with the commutative property. Commutative is, I think, even simpler, that inside the parentheses, you can switch the numbers around. You can move them. 3 plus 4, 4 plus 3. It doesn't matter. 3 plus 4, 7. 4 plus 3, 7. So inside of a parentheses, you can change the numbers around. That's what's the commutative property. And that's true for addition and multiplication. 3 times 4, 12. 4 times 3, 12. All right, so that's called the commutative property. All right, so you may see a question similar to this on the SOL. What expression completes the following equation? So we know here's an equal sign, so we know that whatever is on this side must equal this side. So we have to look really carefully at our choices. So this says 21 times 4 times 6. and the parentheses are around the 4 and the 6. Okay, so let's take a look. 21 times 4 times 6. Okay, well, I like how this has multiplication symbols, and so does this, because you want that to be the same in the associative property. Here is your parentheses around 4 times 6, and this time the parentheses are around 21 times 4. So my guess is it's going to be A, but let's take a look at the others. This says 21 times 4 in parentheses times 21 times 6 in parentheses. This is not the associative property. That is definitely not the associative property, so we can't do that. This says 21 times 4 plus 6. Uh-oh. We can't just change the sign, because it would definitely give a different answer. The only thing the associative property allows us to do is change where the parentheses go. Okay, so I know I'm not going to pick B, and I know I'm not going to pick C. And then D says 21 times 4 plus 21 times 6. That is not what it is either. They just added in a plus symbol. No, that's not the associative property. So the associative property means that it's going to be equal if the only thing you change is where the parentheses go. All right. So which expression shows the associative property of multiplication? Take a look here. I want you to see if you can find it. So this says 2 times 3 in parentheses times 6. 2 times 3 times 6. Okay, it looks like all of them have a 2, a 3, and a 6. A 2, a 3, and a 6. A 2, a 3, and a 6. A 2, and a 3. Okay. This has multiplication symbols. I need to make sure mine has multiplication symbols. And look at that, there's only one that does. Because this has an addition. This has 2 addition symbols, and this has an addition symbol. So I think A is correct, but let's test it out. 2 times 6, I'm sorry, 2 times 3 times 6. Yeah, the only difference is where the parentheses are. So let's take a look. Let's bring it over and just check. How about that? We'll actually do the math for this one. I just want to make sure. Okay, so 2 times 3 is 6 times 6. That would be 36. Okay, this time I'm going to do 3 times 6. 3 times 6 is 18 times 2. That is also 36. Yep, we got it. A was the right answer. All right, so I'm going to let you show what you know now. I'm going to let you try a couple. Which equation is true? Remember, an equation means that both sides have the same value. Which number sentence is correct? Which equation shows the use of the associative property of multiplication? Okay, associative property of multiplication. Look carefully. All right, friends. You know, sometimes when we're doing homework, sometimes when we're doing chores or exercising, or doing anything that's challenging, we get tired, don't we? But I want to challenge you to have the mindset of this. Don't stop when you're tired. Stop when you're done. You know, we're nearing the end of the school year, and I know a lot of you are getting tired. And when you're doing the SOLs, in the middle of the test, you're going to start getting tired. But what I want you to get in your mind is that you don't stop when you're tired. You don't just quit. You don't give up. You keep pressing on and trying your very best all the way until you're done. Okay? That shows that you have grit, and that is something to be very proud of. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.